DBS community, welcome back to another video here with Chris, and today we're going to be going over the state of yellow in the current format and foreseeably the future Nats format of what we potentially might see. Obviously this is not including the new set, just what we currently have right now. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. As always, hit that bell for notifications, like all that stuff. All the support helps. So with yellow we have really it's a very kind of a 1-2 punch really with yellow. Honestly, there's no other yellow decks that have seemed to make any sort of splash in the format, and these two are just kind of the two that you're going to be playing if you're playing yellow. There's nothing really there's some other cute strategies that you can do like Golden Frieza and some other stuff, but these are the two right now that kind of hold the crown of what you would want out of a yellow deck, which is the Vegeta Trunks deck as well as the new Kidku reboot. I think the reason why both of these decks are so successful, at least in the terms of yellow decks, is because they have so much defense. Both of these decks have barrier blockers, have a lot of barrier cards, and that is a seamless way of being able to get around all of these different red strategies that just want to neg your cards. Obviously it doesn't work with Gogeta too much, it doesn't really matter, but outside of that, every other deck, it's barrier removal is very hard to come by. It's not something that people want to spend a ton of energy on, and yellow has a lot of barrier. It's a lot of barrier. So we'll start with the Vegeta Trunks deck, and it's kind of I think what yellow's missing is a real I won't say a real game ender, but yellow doesn't have anything scary necessarily in their deck, and that's a good thing. Like, yellow has so much resource management and it's so defensive and has so many different tools that it could use. It's kind of silly when a yellow deck has the most defense and the most offense, right? But currently yellow has, this particular yellow deck has a lot that it can do, and it's essentially just starving your opponent out of resources. Your leader is essentially a 25k double strike when you want to go for game. You have barrier blockers like the Trunks here that are just very difficult to remove. Also just gives you just a lot of defense for 1 energy, and a drawing engine too. That's also important to keep in mind. But the big combo with yellow right now is the Oolong Mira combo. For those who don't know, is you play Mira, you swing with Mira. Mira gains a ton of power for every card in your warp, and then you play Oolong, and then you use Oolong to copy the power of that Mira, and then you swing with that. So you can swing, let's say you're swinging like 145k with Mira, right? Your opponent negates it, whatever. Then you play Oolong, copy it, so now it becomes 145k plus the 4k, I think. No, I think it just gains the actual power of it. So then it would just become 145k. And then you could just swing with the Oolong and then, throw a chomp on it or whatever, right? It's a very crucial card. I think it's going to be definitely defining for yellow decks for a while if people are playing Mira. But also other archetypes too, because this works on either board. So you can just choose a card ignoring barrier on either board and then just gain its power. So if your opponent has a Secret on board, it's 40k, you're like, cool, I'm gonna play this, and then just swing 40k, right? That's essentially what you're kind of doing in the Vegeta Trunks deck. Now for Kidku's a little bit different. Kidku has a lot of things that it wants to do, and the biggest thing is being able to free play or play these Gokus out for very, very cheap. Explosive Spirit Son Goku is probably the best one. Barrier blocker, 10k with your Unison becomes a 15k, but also kills something in rest mode and then restands itself. So you can swing with this, restand it, now you have a barrier blocker on board. Very hard to remove, right? You have a draw engine with the I'm the World Champion card, which if you have a Son Goku card in play in your battle area, you get to draw 2. One drop draw 2 is pretty good. At first, I think this card was kind of thought of as a meme. When it showed off in the deck, people were like, why would I play this? And then you kind of think about it, you're like, okay, you tap 1 and draw 2 cards. It's not bad. And then this fuels your drop area for Mecha Frieza. So it's got double purpose. And then the new 8-drop Grade 8 Son Goku Full Moon Nightmare. This card, there is a Goku that you can play that reduces all the evolved skills by 1 yellow and 1 colorless. So essentially, instead of this being a 5 cost, it'd be a 3 cost. You play it, you rest everything in your battle area, and then you choose all your opponent's battle cards, unisons, and field spells in rest mode, and then place them in the drop. So you can basically just board wipe. That doesn't include barrier, but also being able to board wipe a unison is also pretty strong. And now you have a 30k triple strike for 3 energy, right? This deck also plays Planet Vegeta, so you're gonna be able to restand this guy at the end of the turn. There's a lot of cool things that this deck can do. I think this will probably be, unless one of these new yellow decks are just insane, I think these two will probably take up most of the yellow representation, at least from Nats and everybody else's World Championship and all that kind of thing. There are some yellow decks that I do think are kind of on the verge of being meta defining, and this Piccolo and Gotenks are kind of that. So Piccolo is going to get better and better the more Z battle cards that we get, right? Pan and the Pan SR is incredibly good. The one that you can play from the drop area after you use it for Z energy, it's incredibly good. That you have the Gohan, and then anything else that you end up playing, because this card says when you play a yellow card from your drop area or a Z battle card. So if you play a Z battle card, you get the draw card, and then when you swing, you draw a card, and then you discard a card, and then that can trigger you playing a card from the drop area. So, but also why Piccolo is so good is because Piccolo has the ability to combo from the drop, as well as on the front side you can search any yellow card, and that's so generic that it's impossible for it to not be thought of as a good leader. So currently it's probably just not the format for it. I know next set, I think they already showed this off, there's already going to be a Piccolo Z leader. I don't know if it's going to be amazing for this leader, but just having the ability to play a Z leader, just extra value. And then Super Saiyan Gotenks. So why Gotenks can be good is Gotenks is probably the most generic yellow leader that has not been touched yet. I would say the most generic yellow leader was probably before this was probably Broly BR, which got errated, and then Icarus, which got errated. So there's kind of a reason why they don't print these incredibly generically good yellow leaders. But people have just kind of forgot about Gotenks. It can take its own life. It's a restand 2 leader, which is very powerful. And it does rely on your opponent playing extra cards or activating extra cards, but you got to think there's all the red decks are playing Violent Rays and Testing the Ops and Imposing Presence, all of which will net you a card. You have blue playing Dirty Burst and Chilled Army Reinforcements and D-Magic and Senzu Bean. All of the stuff draws you a card. So this is all important stuff. You can even play this deck without even using the Union Fusion. However, the new Union Fusion that comes out in the Anniversary box is pretty good because it does have Deflect. So being able to make your leader a 20k crit is also very powerful. It's just something to keep in mind. I definitely think as the Z block goes on, I think Piccolo is just going to keep getting better and better. And if we keep getting good yellow generic stuff, Gotenks potentially may be meta relevant at some point. Now, some cards that are kind of going to define yellow success going into these next few formats. Lord Slug is probably the most defining card of them all. This card, if you do not play this card in your yellow deck, you may either not have room for it, or it's just it's not going to be as good. Honestly, this card essentially just stops so much, right? For one, this stops your Gogeta player from being able to play their Gogeta because they have to draw first, and this card forces them not to draw. All these other decks that just draw tons of cards off of playing other things, they can't play them, right? That's a lot of value. And having a 20k barrier and plus all the defense you have in yellow decks, if you can keep this guy alive for 2 turns, 3 turns, you probably are going to win that game, realistically. So when this card's on board, your opponent has to remove it. There's very few decks that can actually play around Lord Slug. There's a few who can, but most of them just cannot play around Lord Slug. You have Time Magic, which is a incredibly good negate because it gets through barrier, and there's a lot of dual attackers in the format. Being able to just stop a card from being able to attack again is really good. Also, the sparking effect also is nice. You can play it for free. And then Release from Evil, kind of a sneaky one, But this card being able to hit anything that's attacking ignoring barrier. This is Unisons, battle cards, or Z battle cards. And then they can't restand, they can't activate skills, and you can play it for free if you have a Unison in play. So very important. This card can win you a lot of matchups. You just release from evil, and now they can't give the card double strike, or it loses all its power, whatever it is. It's a very, very good defensive card, and definitely needs to be utilized in either main decks or side decks for yellow decks. And I think one of the biggest conversation pieces to have for yellow decks is which secret rare do you play. Now I threw the Super 17 in there because it does have value as a 1-drop. Not every deck is going to want to play that card, of course, but it does have some usage as a secret rare. I think it's just very underutilized, and especially because the Piccolo Gohan is just so incredibly good, being a 30k super combo. People probably overlook it, but I think this is what's going to kind of dictate how good a yellow deck is. And your secret rare really defines, I guess, how your deck's going to go, right? Piccolo Gohan is a free play. If your opponent has 6 cards in rest mode, it's a 30k super combo, so it makes hand dumping much easier, or defense steps much easier. Draws you cards, taps stuff down when it's attacked and when it's played, so it has a lot of value to it. Bardock has the ability to tap down any card, meaning you can tap down energy and go for game. It's a 3-drop. It swings for 4 damage, technically, dual attack, double strike, and then you can pop this to remove 2 cards, and then your opponent can only attack 1 more time for the turn. So outside of if you're not able to finish the job with Bardock, you can then stop your opponent's turn essentially on the next turn, kind of like a small baby hatch effect. And then Super 17 may not be the most relevant at the moment because there's a lot of deflect in the format. But if you can catch your opponent out, being able to play, you basically stop the card being played, have the skills negated, and then you can absorb another card in rest mode, ignoring barrier. And now you have a 40k crit on board. So this card also has relevancy as well. I think it's also very good. But this is what's gonna kind of figure out how your deck is gonna play. And I think there is conversation to be had about all 3 of them. Obviously, Piccolo Gohan is probably the best, just generic one, but the other 2 are not, bad secret rares. So if someone found a deck that really utilized the Super 17 over Bardock and Piccolo, play it, right? But these are probably the best 3 that you're gonna look at for yellow, and it's gonna kind of define how your deck is gonna play. In the late game with one of your secret rares. So that is what I have for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for watching, like, and subscribe as always, and I will see you guys in the next one.